I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is June 21st, 2018, and in this video I'm going to be making a Doctor Who River Song journal for my wife using a 3D printer. Okay, now I really can't 3D print the entire book, but here's my plan. So years ago, I was doing a little bit of woodworking, and so I basically made, and I was learning how to do some coptic stitch. So I learned how to make a coptic stitch binder, and I was actually using, let me see if I can find it, I'll put a link in here. There's this great YouTuber, I found this years ago, her name's Sea Lemon, and she had this video on how to make a sketchbook. And so I followed the directions and figured out how to make a book, and so it's all sewn together, and it's pretty cool. And so I kind of use this as a journal to write notes to my wife for several years as we've kind of had our journey of marriage together, so it's been a lot of fun. Good times and bad. So it's full though, so I need to make a new one. So I've been debating on what to do, and so now we're 3D printing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to 3D print the back and the front cover and then do this coptic stitch. So I'm trying to figure out what could I 3D print that's kind of cool. And so what I came up with, because we're both Doctor Who fans, and so we've been watching that this last couple of years, and so I'm going to make a river song journal. And so there's a couple of pictures out there on what it should look like. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to use Fusion 360 to make it. In Fusion 360, you can actually, there's a great video out there showing, it's a kind of a time lapse where someone did something with the big giant iron robot. I can't think of the name of the movie. Iron Robot? Where he took a picture of the iron robot, and you can actually put a picture on a layer in Fusion 360, and you can kind of use that as a guide. So I'm going to try to do that in this video. So I've taken some measurements from my old one, kind of figured out what I need to do, and I think I've gotten, I wrote down in my little journal here, the size and different things that I need to go for. And so I think see if I can find any fun pictures. So a couple little drawings on what I think I should do. Also to prepare for it, in Photoshop, I actually made the paper. So I've got little paper with all the lines on it just already set up. And actually I've got a little tiny little TARDIS there. I don't know how well that'll show up. But I got it planned. I'm not going to go over the coptic stitch on how to do the actual stitching because I can't do a better job than Sea Lemon has done. So I'll kind of show the end result when I get there, but I'll refer you to her video if you want to learn how to coptic stitch. She does a great video. Maybe I'll show a little bit, but for the most part, watch her. So with that, let me get started and do some measurements and actually hop into Fusion 360 and start to design this thing. Okay, Fusion 360. So if you're new to Fusion 360, and I'll try to do this in every video where I'm doing Fusion 360, I would suggest going and watching Lars Christensen. He does some really great videos on how to learn Fusion 360. And I'll try to go slow and simple because, it's good to learn some stuff. And I'm still a novice, nowhere near the level of some people out there. Now, one thing when it comes to 3D printing that I would suggest doing, if you look over here, compared to when you actually first download Fusion 360, my Z-axis is up. And that's not the typical setting. So to change that, you go under here, go to your preferences. And if you look here on your main preferences, you have default model orientation, Z up. So you want to choose Z up. Now the reason you do that is because it's a simple way to do it so that when you save your files and you put them in your slicer, they're actually oriented the way you want. And by that I mean that this surface right here is your bed of your 3D printer. And so it's just a simpler way otherwise you got to, flip it when you're done or something. And I just would rather not flip it. Okay, so with that, let's get going. So I'll go over here and I'll make a new component and we'll call it, well, this can be River Song Journal. I'll just call it top because they might be the same, but I might do them differently. And with that, let me go, let's see, we want to show, click on that, origin, and show the origin. There we go, cool. And so what I first want to do is I'm going to make, the book, just the top. So it's going to be pretty much just a square to start with, a rectangle. And I have written down here, it should be 145 millimeters wide by 225 tall. So I'll just come down here and click on that bottom axis and say, create a sketch. So create a sketch, and so now we move into that orientation. So now I can look down there. And let me move my little sketch pad over here. Okay, can I make it smaller? Yeah, maybe not. Okay, so I'll come over here and I can do click S, and that will have your shortcuts pop up. And shortcuts, you can put shortcuts here that you like to use a lot, like I'm using a 2-point rectangle. Otherwise, you can search for them. So I can search for rectangle, and you'll find 2-point rectangle or a 3-point rectangle. But I'll just choose a 2-point, and I'll click here on the origin, and I'll go out. And then I want the top there. See, select what's highlighted in blue. I can change and type in what I want. So I'll say 225, and in this one I want 145, and then hit enter, and it's locked in. And so now this is, oops, stop that. Now this is fully defined, which is what I want. And I can't, there we go. So there we go. So, and also I want to, next thing I want to do is pull it up. And so I'm going to go here, press on here, click the Q button, which is my press pull tool, which is over here. There we go. And then select this guy, and I'm going to pull it up. And actually over here, I can actually type in how far I want to go, and I have 10 millimeters. So perfect, 10 millimeters. There we go. Now I got my book. Now the next thing I want to do before I start doing any fun Doctor Who isms on it, is I need to put some holes through it. So you can see with this coptic stitch, I've got these little holes. And so I've got them oriented where I need them to be, but I need to put a little hole through there. I didn't really measure them, but they're tiny. Do I have my, oh, let me go grab my calipers and see how tiny they are. They're very, very tiny. Very, very, very tiny. So they're only like, well, it's like about 3 millimeters. Yeah, about 3 millimeters in diameter. I do have measured where they should be. I just didn't measure their diameter. So let me go down here. And so what we can do is I can come down here and draw a circle. So let me hide this body so I don't see it anymore. And I'm going to draw, I'm going to sketch. So let me go create a sketch. And I'm going to draw a little circle. So I can do S to bring that up and draw a circle. I'll just draw it arbitrary. And I want it to be 3 millimeters, so I'll push 3. Boom. And there we go. So there is enter. There is my tiny little guy. And now you'll see it's blue, which means it's not fully defined on where it should be. So I'll press D, and I'll click that center button here, and I'll click here, the origin, and I'll pull this out. And I didn't measure from how far it should be there either, did I? Darn it. Guess I'll do that right now. That should be, looks like about 12. So I'll say 12 millimeters, and that gets me put in the right location there, but you can see it's still blue. It's not fully defined where it should be. So I'll hit this again, click D again, click there, D, there, and pull it out. There we go. And then that I have written, I've written to the center. I wrote it to the center, didn't I? So I'm going to do some math here real quick. So we have 225, which is 112.5, and 40, 50, 90 down. Okay, so that's 90, so 22.5. So 22.5 for the first guy. So there's my first hole. Then I want to make, I need to make 5 other holes. So let me just sketch some more. Let me hit S, make some more guys. 3, and then go through this whole process again. So we'll go, pull it out, say 12. And now I know how far they should be away from each other, so I can click each other like that and say 25. There we go. Now that I got one, oops. S, circle, S, circle, 3, enter, come on. $12 again, and 25 again. There we go. Then I need the 3 more on the top. 3. There we are in blue. And this should be 80 millimeters away. So I can say that, pull that out, and say 80. And then I could line that up again, but there's probably a better way to do this. I can say, I should be able to line those up. So I can be able to click on that guy, hit escape, click on that, and I believe collinear will work. No. Cotangent equals symmetry. Okay, I'll have to think about that. Okay, in that case, I will just do this again. D for dimensions, down there, 12, there we go. Get somewhere. S, make that guy again. Well, I could have mirrored them. Yeah, I could have mirrored them. But I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. 25. And oh, there we go. Okay. One last one. Let me see. I'm going to move this guy up here. D. 25. Okay, a little ugly, but that looks correct. So now, I just need to select all these guys, escape, and up. Let's see what we can do. So let me press the Q button, select, shift, hold down the shift key, and I should be able to select all these, I hope. There's all 6. Let me bring back the original body and then bring these through, and now they're cutting it. And I could do this where they cut all the way through, but it's a lot better idea to actually line them up with the top of this so that if I adjust the size of this later on, it actually will adjust, which is kind of cool. So I can say to object rather than that whole distance, and I can select this object and hit OK, and boom, I have my holes. Now the cool thing about doing it that way, because to that object, not to a distance, is I could go back in my history where I extruded this guy, and I could edit that feature, and rather than being 10, I could, if I decide to make it 15 because I'm wrong, it'll adjust, and those holes will be correct. So it's really cool to do it that correct way, which I believe is called parametric design. Parameterizing all this stuff. Okay, so there's a few more things I want to do, but let me do one more thing to get ready, and then I'll probably go into some time-lapse mode because it'll be really boring to watch me do all little things. So I want to take that picture and lay it on top of this so I can start to work with it. So I can go over here and say Insert, I believe it's Attach a Canvas. So insert Attach Canvas. Now I'll select a face. I'll select this top face to put this canvas on, and then I'll go select the image, which happens to be Riversong Journal. I need to find a flat one, so it'll go on there flat. So I found one on the internet that's close enough for me to use as a guide. And there we go. Look at that. Oh, it's perfect. Oh, that's a good size too. Perfect. So let me hit OK. And so now I'm going to use as a guide, and the fact that it's there is not going to affect anything. It's going to be a guide. I'm going to have to draw lines and cut them out. And so that's going to be all on me. So let me get going. Okay, so here I am trying to make this whole thing, and I kind of failed at this part. And you'll see later on in this video that I had to make these grooves. where the thread's going to lie. And I was kind of making some mistakes in in Fusion 360, where I wasn't quite nailing it right. So in the end, rather than doing these channels, I ended up doing these half circles and putting it through, and that worked just fine. In fact, this whole video that I'm speeding up right now, I had to redo. But the basics are there. Basically, I was putting all these lines here, trying to use this overlay, and as you see, I'm going through, trying to line everything up, mirroring it over to this side, and then just using the Q press pull tool and pressing it down, and then also kind of angling it a little bit. And that worked really well. But then later on, you'll see I had problems with the surface. But I got that figured out later on, because here I am looking at this guy. And although technically it's fine, there's an issue right now in Fusion 360 where when you have that plane, it actually attached an extra plane there that's not supposed to be there, where the picture is. So in a sense it doesn't count, but it's just a bug in Fusion 360. Okay, so I had some issues at the end of that little video. Hopefully I slowed it down, but all of a sudden when I pulled it into when I pulled it into the slicer, when I pulled it into Prusa Control, it wasn't showing up. I had a flat top in spite of the fact that I had done all these really cool designs. Well, I found out, and here it's June 2018, there's a bug in Fusion 360 code that hopefully they fix. And so what the bug was, or is, and I'll show it here in a second, is that if you have a canvas on top, and that canvas is technically drawn on a plane, that plane actually gets transferred over to the 3D print into the STL file, but it's an infinitely small plane, so it actually doesn't count, but you can see it in the Prusa Control, which is annoying. So the simple solution is you can go back and just, delete the canvas, which I'm going to do here in a second. So I did delete the canvas. I got it working. I'm doing a test print right now, but I'll do a real print here in a minute. But what I decided to do, and I can show this a little easier, is I did do another drawing on the back. So on the back side, let's see if I can show, well, I'm not going to show the decal right now. Let me see, decal. Okay, probably can't see it too well, but there is a canvas here on the back of a little TARDIS. And I cut it all out. And so right now, the canvas is still there. So if I come here to make it, so if I say make, 3D print, choose this object, and I don't want to send it to a 3D print utility, and I hit OK, and I'll save this as O2, you'll see the problem here when I bring it up in Prusa Control. So in Prusa Control, I will drag and drop that O2 file in there. Boom. I need to rotate it 90 degrees so it actually fits on the build plate. And so I removed the decal from the top, so this all looks fine. But on the bottom, look at that. You don't see the TARDIS I put on there. And you don't see it. Now let me flip this over so it's easier to see. Let me flip it. So I'll do a 180. There we go. So now you don't see the TARDIS there because there's this infinitely small plane that exists right here, and it's kind of just covering it up. Now the good news right now is I can hit generate. So I'll do 0.2, make it 50% dense. I kind of want this thick. Or at least that's what I'm trying with my experiment. I might change my mind after I hold it. Now this is an infinitely small plane, so it doesn't count. So I can leave it as is, generate this G code, and I should be fine. So if I go here to the top, I can see, there it is, exactly like I want it, go to the very top, and it's fine because it's an infinitely small plane. But I want to do away with this because I would hate to upload something like this to Thingiverse and then no one can really, it's confusing. So let me go over here. And so the simple way to do that is I can go back to here. I've already used my decal. I don't need any more. So I'm going to go right click on here and say just delete. So it says, are you sure? I'll delete it from the timeline. Decal's gone. Does not change my drawing at all. And then I'll make the 3D print. Oh, what are you worried about? Are you getting like that, huh? I doesn't like something about it. Okay, let me see if I can. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. Okay, so we'll select that, create this guy again. And we will call this 03. And hopefully, now I can drag and drop 03 in, and I should get the results that I want. Wait a minute, you're still there. Still there. Not good. I fixed the other one last night, but now... Well, what do I do? Let me go back into Prusa control. Oh, the canvas is still here. I just removed it from... Oh, I removed a thing from the timeline. I removed the wrong thing from the timeline. I removed a sketch. I need to remove the canvas. There we go. I clicked the wrong button. So here's the canvas. Right click. Delete. There we go. Now let me make it. Select that guy. Hit OK. And we'll call it... Oops. And we'll call it 03. Now let's drag and drop that on. Hopefully, problem will be solved. Cool. So let me rotate it 90 degrees so it'll actually fit on the bed. And now if I look at the back side, oh, there's my TARDIS. You can see it. Exactly how I wanted to see it. Perfect. So there we go. I think we're good to go with the build plate. Oh, let me rotate that so that is in the front. Let's see. How about 270? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 0.2 millimeters. Well, I'm printing one out, so I'll see how it is. I might change my mind, but if this prints out well, this is what I'm going to go with. 0.2 millimeter height, 50% dense. This will be rather thick. It doesn't need any supports. And let me generate it. Dun, dun, dun. Hopefully I get what I expect. There we go. So the bottom one, there we go. I can see my little TARDIS. Looks good. Perfect. Looks good. It's making those holes like I want it to make. And there's the top part. There's the side parts. And oh, looks like what I want. Let me save the G code out. And I'll say River Song Journal. Top River Song Journal. I'll call it 03 so I know the difference between them. And then I will print this guy out and see how it looks. Okay, now before I go over the numbers and do that whole section, there's one more thing I need to do. So, well, and also show off. So this did get printed and it looks pretty awesome. So here's the second version that has the TARDIS on the back. So it looks, this color is perfect. This happens to be a Hatchbox blue. Maybe I should, but it looks awesome. And also a little TARDIS. Let me see. Oops, got upside down. It's a little hard to see, but that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a little tiny inlaid TARDIS that you had to kind of look for. And so it works awesomely. I like it. It's perfect. Now the next thing to do is I need to print out the back side. But the back side is a mirror image. So I just want to show how to make a mirror image in Fusion 360, and then I'm going to go print that out. Now I'm not going to record the second printing because it's going to be pretty much equivalent, plus or minus probably 2%. So one time-lapse video is enough. So with that, let me go show you how to make a mirror image. So here I have, in Fusion 360, I got my object. And so what I want to do is I want to make a mirror image of the entire 3D object. So an easy way to do that is I can go right-click on this little plane here and say Offset Plane. And then what it's going to do is going to make a little different plane here for me that I can use as my mirror plane. So I can mirror off that plane. And I want it to be, I could have used the other mirror, but then they'd be right next to each other and it looks a little funny. But anyway, I'm just going to move that over, say OK. And so now I've got this extra little plane. Then it's really easy. I can hit my S key for my tools. And I happen to have already put it here, the mirror tool. But if not, you could just search for mirror and bring up this tool. And right now, you're in the 3D version of the mirror because you're not mirroring lines, you're mirroring an entire object. Or faces or whatever. So here I have to go down and choose bodies. And I'll choose this entire body as is. And I'll select a mirror plane. and I'll select that guy, and boom. So now I have my exact mirror image that I want, and then now I need to go make a 3D version of it. So I'll say 3D print. I'll choose this section, which is the mirror image. I don't want to use Mesh Maker. I'll hit OK, and we'll say River Song. Oh, and if I didn't go over before, I reduced this. I originally had it 10 millimeters, and I reduced it to 7 millimeters, and that seemed to work just fine. I'll also reduce this time and cost. So I'll say 047, I'll say backside. Backside. Hit save. Let me open up Prusa Control. Drop this guy in. Of course, I got to rotate it at 90 degrees to fit on my bed. And so now I should see that this is, so if I look at this in my mind, here's the front, boom. If I look at the back of this, that's on this side, and just mentally, yeah, that's totally opposite. So perfect, it's exactly what I wanted. Mirror image, I'll go to 2 millimeters fast, go to 50% infill. I kind of like that denser. I don't know if you need it, but it feels nice being so dense. But yeah, I don't think you need that. I'll hit generate, and then we'll look at it and see how it goes. All right, so if I do that, yep, do the opposites. All right. Perfect, looks good. Okay, so with that, I'll save the G-code off and get to printing this one. But again, I'm not going to bother recording this one because they're pretty much the same except for just a mirror image. Okay, finally, let's go over the numbers. So, this print took 10 hours and 57 minutes to print out. It took 8.9 cents worth of electricity. And one side of this weighs 0.174 kilograms, so $3.48 for a side. So the total price for one cover is $3.57. But you got to double that because there's two sides. So $7.14. But you also got to remember I made this a little dense. So I made it 50% dense, which I like. But you could make it less dense, so $7 for the cover. But then you got to add all the extras. So I got to get some paper, which I use some thicker paper for that. I also have some string I had to go buy and some beeswax, etc., etc. So pretty much you kind of double that price. So the whole project together is roughly a little under 15 bucks, plus all the labor to put it in. So here is the final result, and I could not be happier. This is super awesome. So one thing when I did the second cover for the back, the mirror cover, I don't know how well this will show up, but I did run it slower. So the entire time I ran it at about 33% speed, and I think that got better results in the back TARDIS. Versus the front, where I was running at 100% speed, it seemed to get a little more mushed. It still looks good, but not quite as good. So running it slower was a big deal. Also, what do I say? I had to do the quick video I did showing me do all the work in Fusion 360. I did have to redo the whole thing. Most of what I redid was exactly what you see in that quick video, except for these little indents here where the string is supposed to go. So right here, I kind of made these channels. And so what I was trying to do before was trying to cut like a little channel and put it and remove that area there. Use the press pull tool. But what I ended up turning out that worked better is I actually made a circle of the same size as this hole on its side so that it only cut halfway through. And so I did that, pushed it all the way through, and that seemed to work really well. So I'm tickled pink. My wife thinks this is awesome. I think it's awesome. I think this is a really good project. And again, like I didn't go over how I did all this coptic stitch because again, Sea Lemon, if I didn't mention, well, I did mention it before. There's a YouTuber out here called Sea Lemon, and here's the actual video. And this is called How to Make a Sketchbook Do-It-Yourself Coptic Stitch Bookbinding Tutorial by Sea Lemon. So I would say if you want to do this, go watch that. Really good tutorial. This is pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy. So anyway, a really cool project. I don't know. It looks good. I'm happy. Hey, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, give it a thumbs down. Also, if you like what we were doing here, subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button. And lastly, have a piece of info to share? Just post a comment.